The landscape of country music is often painted as a family, a community of storytellers strumming guitars around a shared fire. But for Willie Nelson, a man revered as its peaceful, zen-like elder, that portrait is incomplete. Beneath the braids and the worn guitar trigger lies a memory etched not just in song, but in slights, betrayals, and fractures that never fully healed. This is not a story of petty disagreements, but of profound philosophical clashes where friendship, art, and authenticity collided. Willie Nelson's journey is marked by 7 defining conflicts with artists, who, in his eyes, compromised the soul of the music he loved. Some were rivals, some were brothers, and their actions shaped the guarded boundaries of a man who preaches forgiveness, but practices fierce, quiet loyalty to his principles. At the summit of Willie Nelson's disillusionment sits a figure synonymous with country music's commercial zenith, Garth Brooks. The dichotomy between the two defines a generational war for country's heart. Where Willie embodied the worn leather, dust on the boots authenticity of the road, Garth constructed a spectacular, high-wire act of arena rock grandeur. To the millions who flocked to his shows, Brooks was a revolutionary showman. To Willie, watching from the sidelines, it was a seductive betrayal. He saw not innovation, but the dilution of struggle into spectacle. The core tenet of Willie's belief that music must bleed truth from lived experience felt mocked by the fireworks and flying harnesses. Their quiet, seething conflict crystallized not in a public shout, but in a devastatingly quiet critique. Following a gracious public tribute from Garth, Willie's backstage whisper, "And next time, sing it like you mean it," was a torpedo beneath the waterline. It wasn't about vocal technique, it was an accusation of emotional vacancy, of trading raw heart for plastic perfection. That single sentence became an unbridgeable chasm. Every offered duet, every proposed shared stage was henceforth refused. For Willie, Garth Brooks represented the point where country music's soul was commodified, packaged, and sold as a flawless product. And he wanted no part of that transaction. If Garth Brooks represented the commercialization of the male country star, then Shania Twain symbolized its glamorous, pop-oriented metamorphosis. Willie's conflict with Twain was a rejection of an entire aesthetic and philosophical shift. Her reign in the late 90s, with its sequined costumes, choreographed dances, and glossy pop production, was a universe removed from the smoky, introspective, honky-tonks Willie called home. He didn't just dislike her music. He saw it as a fundamental corruption of the genre's purpose. His quip that her shows resembled Vegas more than Nashville was a dismissive verdict, not a joke. Country to Willie was a vehicle for sharing scars, not for showcasing sparkle. The tension reached its peak in a moment of industry validation. As Shania accepted the top honor at the CMA Awards, the cameras found Willie's stoic, impassive face in the crowd. His polite applause was a formality, a mask for profound disapproval. His muttered, "Entertainer, maybe, but that ain't country," to a confidant was his true judgment. The subsequent snub, where he walked past her extended hand as if she were a ghost, was a legendary cold shoulder in Nashville lore. It wasn't personal malice, but a principled stand. In Shania's empire, Willie saw the final surrender of storytelling to showmanship, of heartache to hook-laden formula. Her success to him was proof the industry had forgotten its own backbone, and he refused to acknowledge its queen. The deepest wounds, however, are always inflicted by family. The fracture with Waylon Jennings stands as the most personal and painful of Willie's estrangements. This was no industry rivalry, but a brotherhood forged in the creation of the outlaw movement, shattered from within by the slow poison of jealousy. Their partnership defined a sound, but offstage, the constant billing of a Willie and Waylon grated on Jennings. The perception of Willie as the movement's primary face festered into resentment. Waylon's behaviour, showing up late, drinking heavily, picking at credits, was the manifestation of a friend feeling eclipsed. The breaking point was a cruel public performance of that private frustration. Waylon's onstage jab, accusing Willie of being too altered to play straight, was a betrayal disguised as a joke. Willie's silent response, a smile that hid the cut, was telling. The friendship never recovered. Even Waylon's final, half-mocking interview dig, labelling Willie a hippie who forgot his roots, sealed the permanent silence. When Jennings died, Willie's absence at the funeral spoke volumes. The simple, poignant note he sent. See you on the road somewhere. was a beautifully bittersweet epitaph. It acknowledged their shared journey while admitting the painful truth. Some rifts, even between brothers in arms, are too deep for this world to mend. The conflict with Toby Keith was a battle for country music's soul on a different, more overtly political. For Willie, an artist who wove subtle social commentary into his ballads, Toby's brand of chest-thumping, flag-waving patriotism was a gross perversion of the guitar's purpose. Willie's belief that a guitar should never wave a flag was a direct, if unnamed, rebuke of Keith's anthemic post-9/11 output. Their clash wasn't about musical style, but about ideology and intent. At a benefit meant for healing, Willie watched Toby transform the stage into a partisan rally. The music was secondary to the message, the emotion weaponized for division rather than unity. Willie's confrontation backstage was a plea for artistic integrity. You're using music to fight, not to heal. Toby's dismissive laugh was the only reply needed. From that moment, Willie enacted a permanent boycott. He refused to share any bill, any stage, any cause with Toby Keith. In private, he dismissed the act as a commercial wrapped in camouflage, criticizing the fusion of jingoism with commerce. Even later peace overtures were left unanswered. Sure. For Willie, Toby represented the dangerous trend of music as a blunt political instrument, a path he believed betrayed the nuanced, unifying power of song. Sometimes the most damaging blows come from those closest to you. Merle Haggard's falling out with Willie is a tragedy of a brother crossing an unspoken line. They were two pillars of the outlaw ethos, sharing buses, motel rooms, and the very foundation of a genre. The rift began with what Merle may have seen as harmless ribbing about Willie's very public advocacy for cannabis. But Willie, who viewed his stance as part of a broader philosophy of personal freedom, perceived the jokes as a betrayal, a reduction of his life's work to a stoner caricature. The private jabs became public when Merle, with Willie just feet away on stage, declared weed a lazy man's crutch to crowd laughter. Willie's silent response, finishing the set and walking straight to his bus, was more powerful than any retort. The planned collaborations vanished. Calls went unreturned. When Merle eventually sought peace, Willie's terse "some things you don't joke about" revealed the wound was one of profound disappointment, not anger. Even after Haggard's passing, Willie's public eulogy was respectful but notably distant. He honoured one of the greats, but the phrase "my best friend" was conspicuously absent. The silence between those lines told the whole story of a bond severed by a moment of careless disrespect. So, the friendship with Chris Christopherson proves that even the strongest bonds can be vaporized by a single careless sentence. Here was a brotherhood of poets, for men who had navigated the toughest corners of life and art together. Their connection was built on mutual respect for songcraft as literature, which made Christopherson's private, whiskey-lubricated quip echoing Merle's sentiment that Willie had become more of a mascot than a musician, all the more catastrophic. The setting among peers multiplied the betrayal. The laughter that followed was salt in the wound. Egg! Willie's reaction was a silent, immediate withdrawal. Cancelled collaborations, unanswered calls, the infrastructure of a 40-year friendship was dismantled overnight. Willie's explanation, as sometimes words don't fade. They Stain is a masterpiece of pained brevity. It speaks to the power of language, especially from a fellow wordsmith, to inflict permanent damage. Christopherson's attempted apology was too late. The trust was shattered. In Willie's view, a true brother would never wield words so carelessly to diminish his life's path, and that breach was simply unforgivable. The final entry, Kid Rock, represents a clash of cultures so fundamental, it barely lasted a session. Willie's agreement to collaborate was born of his legendary open-mindedness, a willingness to find the thread of rebellion in any genre. Kid Rock, however, approached the meeting not as a student or collaborator, but as a force of chaotic, disrespectful energy. He didn't seek to blend worlds. He sought to dominate the session with loud, raw party anthems, dismissing Willie's nuanced musicianship. The ultimate insult, the dismissive "come on, old man, loosen up," was the spark that ended the experiment. So, Willie's silent exit, removing his headphones and walking out, was the act of a man who realised no meaningful art could be mined from such disrespect. The track was scrapped, never to see light. Willie's later, calm dismissal. Some fires are better left unlit, cloaked a deep, deep disgust. Kid Rock came to represent the antithesis of everything Willie valued. Not rebellion, but hollow posturing. Not raw truth, but calculated noise. He was, in the end, just another loud voice with nothing real to say, and Willie had no time for that brand of emptiness. These 7 conflicts are not a map of petty grudges, but a blueprint of Willie Nelson's unwavering artistic creed. They define the lines he would not cross. Spectacle over substance, glamour over grit, politics over poetry, disrespect over loyalty, and hollow noise over truthful sound. Each fallen friendship is a marker of a principle defended. He may preach peace, but his history shows a warrior's resolve in protecting the soul of his music. The Buddha of country music carries the quiet scars of these wars, and his legacy is etched as much in the names he turned away from as in the songs he turned towards.